Kaguya-sama Love is War is an anime that was made in 2019 by A1 Pictures. It was adapted from a manga of the same name by Akasaka. I'd watched the anime when it first came out and watched it weekly until the series was over. After it was over, I decided to pick up the manga because I really wanted to see more from the series. I now have almost every single manga that's available in America right now, except for the last 3 as those haven't been translated yet, but I have been reading them while I've been waiting. And after finishing all the mangas, I decided to make a giant video talking about everything in this series. However, I couldn't find a good transition from the manga story to the side content, so I decided to just make the side content its own separate video, just to make it easier on myself. So, let's get into Kaguya-sama's extra side content to see what's available after you're finished with everything else in the series. Couple disclaimers to everyone watching this video. First, I'm not Japanese, nor do I speak it. I am learning it though, however, I do not know enough in order to call people by the correct names, so I'm very sorry for that. And I also forgot to mention, in one of the later parts, there's going to be spoilers for Season 3 of the anime. So, really sorry for that, hopefully this makes up for it. And with that being said, let's get on to the first manga. Kaguya-sama wo Kataritai was a manga released in 2018 and was made by Akasaka. It focuses mostly on the 2 girls from the Mass Media Club, Erika Kosei and Karen Kino. We mostly just see them investigate different rumors about the student council or anything else about Shujin Academy, as well as them just investigating the student council to see what they're up to. And for hardcore Kaguya-sama fans, I think a lot of people would enjoy this. There are a lot of nice references to the main story with small details, and there's some interesting character moments between the Mass Media Club and the main cast. One thing that I think is really good about this manga is that it adds in a lot more world building to the story, because now we're seeing everything through the eyes of the students rather than the student council. And we even get to see where some of the rumors that are spread around throughout the school come from. Plus, seeing more character interaction between the cast and some other secondary characters is something I always appreciate. It makes the world seem a lot more lively. There's also a shocking amount of content in this manga. Around 8 volumes totaling almost 200 chapters. That's almost as much as the main series. Sadly, this series was never released outside of Japan, so you do have to understand Japanese or look up a fan translation online if you want to read this. Well, the first manga is pretty good. Let's see what the movies have to offer. Kaguya-sama Love is War is a movie released in 2019. Yes, it has the same name as the anime. Creators? I hate you. This movie was confusing. I don't want to say it's a bad movie, because I did enjoy what I was watching, but I was mostly questioning a lot of the things about this while I was watching it. One of the main things I was questioning was, why would any Kaguya-sama fan want to watch this movie, besides the fact that it's done in live action? Or they just enjoy the actors who are in this movie. Because this is mostly just an adaptation of the anime, just with different events that play out in the beginning. Most of the ending just seems to be the same. And in my eyes, this really hurts the movie. Because it's done in live action, it doesn't really give as much merit as the animated version does. Because there's so much crap going on with all the different edits they've decided to use in animation, it makes it seem a lot more fun and a lot more hyper. When it's done in live action, it just seems a lot more bland, boring, and kinda safe. It feels more like a high school stage play of Kaguya-sama, rather than an actual live-action movie of Kaguya-sama. Which I don't really hate, but I could see a lot of people having problems with this. I still think you should check this out anyway, as seeing this series done in live action was very fun to see, even if it wasn't done the best. Now there is a sequel in this movie that might have fixed all these issues, but that's not officially translated yet, so I'm gonna wait until I find it either a fan translation or an official translation. However, I doubt any of those will come by anytime soon, so let's see what happens. And now with the live action movie out of the way, let's get to the animated one. Spoiler warning, this part of the video will be talking about chapter 15 of the manga, so I recommend you go read that before watching this part. I was also unable to get good clips of the movie online, so I will be using clips from the anime or the manga in this section. Kaguya-sama The First Kiss Never Ends is a movie released on Valentine's Day of this year, and I love this movie, but I think most people will either hate or love this movie, and that's due to the story behind it. I'm actually thinking of making a video dedicated to this movie because there are a lot of story elements that I want to go into and talk about to show off why I think this movie is so good. But for now, I'm just going to give a little summary of the story to show off why I think people will either love or hate this film. Kaguya and Shirogane are both stressed out after the love confession at the culture festival. Kaguya is stressed out because she accidentally gave Shirogane a French kiss and not a normal kiss, and Shirogane is panicking because he misinterprets the meaning of the kiss and because Kaguya has gone back to her old self. The movie mostly focuses on the doubts that both of them have during their relationship. And this is where I think most people will either love or hate this movie. I think the reason why a lot of people would hate this movie is because of how the story's direction goes. Because most people watching this probably just wanted a satisfying conclusion, where these two characters who have been fighting this whole entire time now finally make up their differences and decide to be happy with each other. But from the summary I just gave you, you can tell that that's definitely not what happens in this movie. And it's mostly just them going back to their old selves, trying to guess what the other person's thinking. Which I think a lot of people would see as a big middle finger to Kaguya-sama fans, but I think that it's a really important thing to establish in this series. It shows how both Kaguya and Shirogane view love, and how they view it more as a bad thing rather than a good thing. And the movie does such a good job at explaining this through the characters' perspectives, while also showing them trying to fix that side of their personalities in order to be happy with each other in the end. And it's not fixed super easily. They gotta go through a lot of difficult situations in order to get to the point that they want to be at. Kaguya trying to show off her true self to Shirogane in hopes that he'll like him, and Shirogane trying his best to cover up his own true self because he's unsure if Kaguya will like his true self or not. It's a really great movie that I think everyone should go and watch. It's so underrated. And in my opinion, it's the best Kaguya-sama thing that's ever been released. But let's stop getting emotional, and let's just move on to something more funny, with the Dojin. Oh god, this name. Kaguya-sama wo Kokurasetai Dojoban is a Arrow spin-off doujin made in commemoration of the anime. It was illustrated and written by Shinta Sakayama. Now, I'm not sure if this is an official Kaguya-sama media or if it's just a doujin made by a single guy, but they are printed by the same company, so I assume that it's official. But regardless of that, this is a non-canonical doujin of Kaguya-sama. And this mostly is just a more comedic and more Arrow version of Kaguya-sama. Literally, the first chapter is just Ishigami and Shirogane trying to tell Chika that her panties are visible indirectly. Now, I'm surprised at how well this doujin copies the Kaguya-sama comedic formula. Many of the events that happen in this series are very fanservice heavy, but I honestly looked past a lot of it because I was so shocked at how funny and accurate this was to the main Kaguya-sama story that I just completely forgot that these were non-canonical. I can actually see a lot of newer Kaguya-sama fans mistake this for actual Kaguya-sama, because they probably wouldn't know the art style that well, which yeah, the art style is the main giveaway as to this being a doujin. As you can tell, it's not drawn by the same person. The art isn't bad, far from it. It is really good art and really cute, and I love it. But if you are a more experienced Kaguya-sama fan, you could definitely tell this is not made by Aka Akasaka. This one has a decent amount of content to it, not as much as the first manga, but still a good amount, around 33 chapters with 4 volumes total. And also, if you decide to read this, I'm just gonna tell you this, skip chapter 2, it's disgusting, don't read it, it's not funny. Well, it looks like we're done with the fan service, so let's move on to the final part of our video, I swear, I can never get away from these shows. Every time I think I've lost them, they always come back to find me. The OVA has 3 sections to it, each dedicated to a different part of the Kaguya-sama manga. The first one being Chapter 64-01, Chapter 83-01, and the last one covering Chapter 96. Now, I don't know how good the first 2 sections were adapted from the manga, as those parts of the manga weren't sold here in America, but I have read Chapter 96, and I thought that was a pretty good adaptation. This OVA is pretty funny, and I like that it's not just fan service galore. It starts off with Ishigami reading a manga that claims to have uncensored nudity in it. Meanwhile, we just have Kaguya and Chika getting some fan service moments. Don't worry if you're uncomfortable with these types of things, it's the only type of fan service in the whole OVA. The second story focuses on Ishigami and Shirogane going to read a porn mag that they found in the street. And then finally, the last section covers the rice cooking competition in the manga, which was an okay chapter in the manga, but when adapted to this OVA style, I really enjoyed it and it made it so much more funny. Hey everyone, I'm editing this video right now, and while I was editing this part, I found out that there was a light novel that I completely skipped over. I did not know this thing existed. I was not on the Kaguya-sama wiki page, and when looking at the fandom page, there is very little information about it, just some Google translated text and very short summaries. I think this is probably the shortest summary I've ever seen on a fandom page, so I didn't think this thing existed, and I have no idea how to read this, and I'm very sorry for not talking about it, but I'll try my best to cover it in another video. And that is the last of the Kaguya-sama side media. There's quite a lot to watch once you're finished with the manga or the anime. If you want more world development or character interaction, you can always check out the spin-off with Karen Kino and Erika Kosei, and if you want more adaptations, you can just watch the movies or check out the OVA. Or if you're just wanting to see something a little bit more risque and fan servicey, you can always check out the Dojin. All of which are pretty solid. So, I hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'm gonna get back to writing the main Kaguya-sama video. So, see you all later.